Hey, what's going on? So, this video is about diagnosing structural column supports in your home. And I'm not saying you should do it yourself, but you can. A lot of this is simple. So, this video is going to be designed to help you out, maybe shed some light on some of this. So, when you look at these columns here, the home inspector will say, "Oh, the bottom doesn't have a footer." He's not even going to dig and look it. So, you want to dig down below and make sure it's on a footer. Okay. And he's going to say, "Oh, the top isn't welded. It's not connected to the beam." Yeah, no, it's not. No. But are you going to hit that with a tow motor? Nah, I don't think so. So, I'm probably okay with that. Now, here's an old house, and you start to see the rusting like that. Well, that means it's rusting all on the inside. So hit that with a screwdriver, and if you put a hole through it, time to get a new one. Maybe you don't have to get one tomorrow, okay? Because there's still some strength left, but you'll need to replace it. And a lot of times these are caused by high indoor humidity or basements that leak. So now here's one that's kind of, this one's not done right. It's eccentrically loaded. I don't like the way they did this, okay? It looks like it's not really connected to anything. They're using a steel plate as a bearing plate, but they really should have had that thing in the center. And that piece of wood, that 2x8 usually should have been going the other way. And that plate should have been bigger. And that would have helped out. Now, is this going to collapse tomorrow? Nah, probably not. Unless, of course, there's an earthquake, or, a 200-mile-an-hour wind that hits the house, or you got a tow motor downstairs, okay? That was a picture of just the post underneath. You really, should have better bearing capacity. Now, so sometimes what happens is floors in old homes deflect. So they'll put a column in, right, to help the floor, which is fine. I mean, it does help the floor upstairs, especially if you load it up. But this might work. It probably will work, but it's completely bogus because, you're putting a piece of wood down. Now, the bigger the piece of wood, the better bearing capacity. But really, if there's moisture, vapor pressure, damp rise, because a lot of these homes don't have plastic vapor barriers, so that wood will rot out. So maybe you'll have to replace the wood periodically. Then you got to jack it up and replace it, right? It's a lot of extra work. Plus, every time you jack up a house, you're going to cause doors maybe to get tight and cracks, especially old plaster. So this really should have had a footer. The home inspectors can say, "Oh, no good, need footer." Yeah, maybe, Okay, so here we got a column. Well, not this one here, obviously is failing. It has been failing. And all the walls upstairs are probably cracking, doors are getting tight. Okay? That column there, and support, again, isn't supported. Now, if you want to put a nail through that little hole, say, okay, it's connected. Okay, go for it. It'll work. All right? If you could blow a screwdriver through, like I said earlier, it's time for a new column support. Okay, now, sometimes we don't know if our footers are deep enough, especially these old cottages. And so you can buy these probes. And if you learn how to use the probe, you got to go in at a certain angle, at a certain depth. And if you hit the footer, then you know how deep the footer is. And you want to try to have footers below the frost line. You want to make sure you have footers. Some homes, the footers aren't below the frost lines. That's a problem because you're going to get all kind of issues in the house. You want to be below the frost line. Okay? That's a concrete footer that you want to put in. You want to place your columns on concrete is the best. I mean, you can put it on a floor, but you don't know how thick that floor is. It's probably like 2-3 inches thick. But I tell you what, I've been inspecting for a long time, 40 years, and rarely do I see one of these things punch through the floor, the concrete. Matter of fact, I never have. 18,000 homes. So is it bad? Yeah, but we could, a lot of things in these older homes we could live with. And it's not a perfect world. I mean, some people think they live in a perfect world and they go broke. And that house that they bought, they fix everything. And then they realize they got 300 grand in a house that's only worth 150. So you got to be smart about this, okay? Smart about where you're going to spend your money, what you're going to do. Now, here's different columns. I found, and you could see where these are buried, probably in the basement that flooded. But anyways, you can see how they're hollow, and they're different size columns, and they're strong. You know, that's you could buy these too or have them made. These are old columns out of old buildings. These wood posts. See, this beam, this basement probably didn't need anything there, but maybe you had powder post beetle, or maybe you had humidity or moisture. You know, the floor deflected over time from creep. You know, and possibly there's like a grand piano up there. I don't know. And so they added this support below. So really, the support was just like bracing to help it out. It wasn't done right, but it helps. It's covered. It's going across a span. Now, you know, you want to make sure you have better bearing capacity, and you could see that this area here, you could see that this probably has soil, so there's probably no footer. Pouring a footer is always the best way to go for the bottom. That's the bottom of it. And what's going to happen is if it gets wet, this piece here is going to get undermined, right? And then your support's not going to work. So, you know, here you can see the hill where, not the hill, but the unlevel elevation. I mean, it probably going to work for a while. I'm not sure this would be a lifelong repair. Absolutely not. But a temporary repair, sure. A footer would have been much better. See here, and you know, whenever you put wood to ground contact, very temporary repair, right? So if you put a footer there, you wouldn't have needed all that wood. Besides, you don't want cellulose on a dirt floor anyways, okay? Because it's going to rot out. Then these are I-beams. These are repairs on walls. Again, rusted through. These are repairs where people try to jack it up with bolts. But the thing is this works if the masonry block is filled with, you know, with mortar or with rebar. Now, you know, not rocket science if this is going to work. So what they did is they had nowhere to put the support. Okay, and it looks like it's just they're using a jack, okay, as a support, and that's an end support. It's holding up a beam. If you look up top, that's a whole beam it's holding up right there. So they're actually using like a house jack to support it, and then they're putting it over a couple pieces of wood. I don't know about this one. Okay, I mean, it might work. Don't land a helicopter on top of your house. But now you see how it's rotating. It's not level anymore, so you get eccentric loading. So this could be a failure, okay? These I-beams are just to hold the walls from failing, so they're not really holding anything. They're working in the opposite, in the lateral direction, okay? They're not working in the axial compression direction. So these are different kind of beams. They hold the walls from bowing in, okay? And then sometimes, you know, you don't find the columns. You got to get on your knees and look at that. This column's completely gone, and all the house up above it's cracking. So steel column support, these do absolutely nothing. Somebody's trying to fix the wall here. See that? The wall was bowed. You see the crack on the wall. See the crack right here. So these goofballs thought that this would relieve the pressure of the wall. The load isn't the joist above it. The load is the soil pushing against it. So sometimes people don't know what they're doing. Waste of time and money right there. Waste. You know, and of course, you know, large columns too, you know, support buildings. I mean, you know, you have wind damage and the columns are always the ones standing up. So, hey, if they're in good shape, leave them alone. Put up new siding, okay? That's a footer, okay? So this one here was done properly, maybe a little excessive, okay? That's proper too. You see how it's strapping and the straps are going around it? Okay, here's another, somebody installed another one of these beams that does absolutely nothing. And look at these old column supports. Man, this building's 100 years old. This is a Rochester subway system. I bet you guys didn't know they had an abandoned subway system. This is the way it used to get down. And these things are almost 100 years old, and they're still good. Porch piers. You know, the problem with the porches, is they get wet, they're exposed to the environment, and then the carpenter ants get down into these things. And then the wind blows, the snow gets loaded, and bada bing, it falls down. So these columns have to be looked at periodically. Porches have to be inspected. You see carpenter ant. Oh, by the way, I have a service on YouTube. Just Google "Call Marco with a question." Google "Call Marco" Marko with a question, and for $29, we'll solve your house problem. I've been doing this for 40 years. Um, Most people call me. They call me because they've had other people that can't solve their house problems. I'll help you out. And it doesn't matter what kind of problems, as long as it's house related, building related, structural related, environmental related. You can send me photos. We can talk about it. I usually ask a lot of questions. Down below, also, I have some links. Check out the links. I do try to sell products that are relevant to the video I'm doing. I also have lots of videos. So if you're looking for a house problem, you want to find what's going on in your house, just Google, or not Google, go to Clevelandmarko. That's my YouTube page, Clevelandmarko Marko, and then you could search, and you might find the video you want. Just use one or two tag words. Hopefully, you can watch some of those videos and learn what you need to know. Please rate, subscribe, okay? And then here you can see this column here is kicking out. You know, it's still okay, but we're gonna have a problem here real soon. That's holding up that whole front porch. So we'll leave it at that. So basically, if you got a leaky basement, you want to go down your basement, inspect your columns, and hit it with a screwdriver. Bing, 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 dut, 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 dut. And if it sounds like a dut, 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 it's rusting through. You might need new steel column supports. And the crawl spaces, you know, if you can get down in there, look at them, especially if your floors are deflecting. A lot of times, you know, they don't have doubled up joists under partition walls. A lot of these older houses don't have joist hangers, you know, Simpson connections, things like that. So you may have to stiffen up some stuff. Sometimes you got to add columns and supports. But, you know, I do find, you know, 10% of all the homes I inspect have problems with the structural column supports. And so inspect those frequently, look at them. Hey, if you have a question, you can send me a picture of that column. You know, and I do have Call Marco with a question. $29 will solve any house problem. And sometimes it's cheaper just to do that. And you know what? Sometimes I spend more than 15, 20 minutes. You know, I want to solve your problem. I want to help you out. And it may be cheaper than trying to call somebody and paying $200-300 to show up. So, hey, Call Marco with a question. Marko, Clevelandmarko on YouTube. Please rate and subscribe and hit the bell for future videos. Thanks for coming on.